What was college like in an Ivy League school?
Well, to your point, there were a lot of squares.
Welcome to the Exploring Washington State podcast. Here's your host, Scott Cowan.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Exploring Washington State podcast. I'm Scott Cowan, and I'm going to be your host. Today, I'm talking to Whitney, Jesse, and Aaron of Jet Hospitality. And Jet is a alt travel company that's offering some really intriguing camping, glamping options in 3 locations in Washington State. They also have a couple in Idaho as well, but we won't talk about those today too much. Just kidding, that we will a little. But I think you're going to enjoy this episode if you are looking for some slightly different ways of experiencing hospitality. So I think you're going to enjoy hearing what Jesse and Aaron have to say. And then Whitney is the chief marketing officer for the company. And so we talk marketing and how you can find out more about Jet. Anyway, before we get started, I'm going to give an announcement. This is actually going to be the last episode of the Exploring Washington State podcast as you know it. This episode is going to come out in early November of 2022, and we're going to stop publishing until January 1st of 2023. The Exploring Washington State podcast has done over 230 episodes, and they've been a lot of fun for me to do, but it's a huge, sprawling project. And with podcasts, when you sign up and subscribe, like we hope you do, you get every episode. You can't opt in or opt out of a category. And since we cover so many broad categories, we want to make it a little easier for us. So starting in January, the Exploring Washington State podcast is going to break out into 6 different shows. That's right, 6 different shows. Stay tuned. Follow us on Instagram. Follow us at Facebook. Visit our website, explorewashingtonstate.com. Sign up for our newsletter, and we'll keep you informed. But starting in January, Explore Washington State is going to be brought to you in 6 different shows. We got great ideas. We're looking forward to this. It's going to be a huge undertaking. We are going to be your source for Washington State content. So enough of that for now. Let's talk to Aaron, Jesse, and Whitney. All right, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. So Whitney's going to introduce herself. We're going to start with Whitney because, well, she wanted it that way. So Whitney, please say hello.
Hi, everyone. I am Whitney Brielle-Martin. I am the owner and founder of Please Add Salt Agency and the acting CMO of Jet Hospitality, which is why we're here today, because we love Washington.
Awesome. So Jesse, how about you? Introduce yourself, please.
Co-founder here with Aaron and CEO of Jet Hospitality, and I'm the original innkeeper of Jet Hospitality, and so I wear that mantle proud. And yeah, there you go.
The original innkeeper. We're going to come back to that. All right, Aaron, your turn.
Yes, sir. Aaron Mumford, fired up to be here with Explore Washington. I grew up in Oregon, traveled many a moon since then, but just excited to be repping the Pac Northwest, which is the little known gym, which we're proud to be a part of. So thanks for having us, Scott.
Thanks for being here, you guys. So let's start with the name. Why Jet Hospitality?
Ooh, this is a good one. Little known fact. Jesse can explain this.
Yeah, well, it started, we're up here in Jet City, up here in Seattle, and, we were running vacation rentals and restoring boats and running them on Airbnb. So my company, Jet City Capital Management, kind of spun off Jet Hospitality, and Aaron jumped on board, and we've kind of just morphed into something over the past 5 years, but felt like the name stuck, Scott, and so you got a good thing, we just go with it. So,
all right. So,
but the important piece, Scott, he my man Jesse, he got ahead of himself. You were inquiring about what the origins of Jet was, and there's a lot of money in North Seattle, and I'm in North Denver, and Jesse's always been on these peripheral markets, and so he was Georgetown, South And basically, first time I visited Jesse, I was like, "What's that white noise?" And he's like, "That's the jets passing by your head every single minute because he's right by Boeing Field." And so Boeing Field, jets passing by every day, and so that was Jet. And
Okay.
it's got
All right.
No doubt about
I
that.
grew up.
So there it was.
Go ahead.
I grew up. So Jesse, I grew up in Tacoma, so
Okay.
just down the road. And so as a kid, well, I was in college at the time, and McChord Air Force Base before it became Joint Base Lewis McChord. So it was McChord Air Force Base. So I went over to a friend of mine's house who lived right off of I-5, right by the Air Force Base. And I'm standing out in the driveway talking to him, and his parents are out there, and one of those military airplanes fly over. I can't hear anything, and they keep talking. They've all had learned how to read lips because of the airplane noise flying over their houses. They just kept going. Like there was no, I mean, these planes were so close you could see like the Goodyear on the tire of the landing gear. It was just bizarre. So I get the white noise thing. Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah.
Well, how about Scott? How about the Tacoma aroma? What is your definition of that?
Oh, you guys. I don't live there anymore. That's my definition. I moved away. So I got to ask you, Jesse, you guys were doing boats and turning them into Airbnb rentals?
Yeah, well, we still are actually. We bought an old yacht in 2016, and I sitting down in the club with Aaron in Vegas, and we thought it'd be a good idea to ask him to get on board restoring this old yacht so that we could rent it out on Airbnb, and maybe film a few music videos or something, get it going.
Right.
Okay. And definitely the model proved right. Our first rental, we found some paraphernalia in the front V-berth, so that
right.
proved that business model was right.
So that's when you were the original housekeeper, though. The innkeeper. So you were like, okay, gotcha.
All things, original innkeeper has a lot of meanings, but we just couldn't get into Seattle. So Aaron was right. We had these houses in South Seattle, and I just run around and clean them and run them on Airbnb. And then we got the boat. Then we got some, tiny houses, and we built a tree house, and we started getting creative and kind of created this little micro resort. So that's how Jet Hospitality came to be. But the boat was definitely the original chess piece, and we're still restoring it today. So
what is the boat? I mean, yacht. What is?
Yeah, exactly. Yacht. It's 1958 Stevens Brothers, 38-foot wooden vessel. Yeah.
Okay.
We have had it restored the past 5 years and put a new engine in it last year. And so, we started with the inside though. We added a keg. We added, everything you'd want on the inside and rented it first. But
so if I were to rent that, I can't. Am I allowed to take it out and?
Yeah, but Jesse chopped up there. But this was, Jesse's always been a creative person, and so when we started this, he had that. It was basically, call it a mediocre at best single family house in South Seattle, Georgetown, in South Park area.
Looked kind of like this.
Okay.
Yeah, it looked kind of like that little casita, and he's like, "Hey, I can add another unit." I'm like, "Where's that going to be?" He's like, "It's the treehouse back here." I said, "That's just the shed." He goes, "Not for long." And he said, "Then let me show you this." And he's like, "I'm building a tiny house. I'm gonna put that in the front big parking lot." I said, "Well, that could work." And I'm kind of just in an advisory role at this point. And then he comes to me on, we call it the March Investment Summit. It happens to coincide at the first tip of March Madness, the NCAA tournament. And it just so happens to coincide in Las Vegas, Nevada every year. So the wives, we preconditioned them, and COVID is the only thing that jammed it up. We had 10 years running. And it was going really, really well. But about like year 3 or 4, he goes, "Aaron, I want you in." We were roommates in college, met on our recruitment trip out there to Cornell, and we always knew we wanted to rejoin forces. But he said, "Hey, I got a boat." I said, "A boat? What the hell are you going to do with that thing?" And this is an important piece with Jet Hospitality and filling a need. The Ballard district of Seattle, which Scott, you probably know, there's no hotels down there, but that's where all the breweries and everything was growing and expanding. He said, we could just set this boat at the moor, moor this thing, and it's just like a, floating hotel. And no, you couldn't just take it out, to your question. But that was when Airbnb experiences were coming out. He bought this shitty, he bought this mediocre RV or like bus type thing. He's like, this will be the brewery and the weed tour thing. And so we got, the vision was always there, but execution can be a little bit hard. But he just moored this thing. We spruced up the interior, put a two tap keg on it. I remember picking up the first keg and tapping that thing, and it was going great. People just show up to the dock instead of a hotel.
Mm-hmm.
And there was no hotels. We're gaining some traction for like 2-3 weeks. And it was always a little bit of a gray area. We like to dance in between the lines to a degree. But then somebody burnt down a dock, the next day. And
wait. Stop.
Yeah, it wasn't us, by the way.
It wasn't a guest, right? You guys had nothing to do with that. Okay, cool. Sorry. All right.
We did not burn down the dock, but a couple docks down, somebody burned it down. And it was like, sometimes where things are going great, you're feeling good, and then you get stopped in your tracks. He called me, and goes back to his original innkeeper thing. He called me, he said, Aaron, the model's working. Your 15,000 is going well. I'm cleaning the front corridor, the front cabin, because this thing has two, like those 38 feet's big, but there's 2 different bedroom areas.
Right.
This was like sleeping at the front of the boat, very tight quarters. I slept there with my wife. It was wonderful. But he said, I found a bra, Aaron. I found a bra when he was cleaning. I said, this thing's working. I said, that would indicate that this model is working. I said, this is going swimmingly. And then the next day, it was like on headlines, like dock burnt down from Airbnb guests, because you get some greenhorn out on the dock, they don't know, and it burns down. So it burnt down, and we had to pivot. And we pivoted into the first property. Which was the one on the coast, which is our core business model now, which is alternative accommodations, leisure lifestyle, whatever you want to call it. But it's people getting out in nature, and they're not just looking for a roof over their head. They're looking for something a little more, something special, activities and beyond.
Okay. We could keep exploring the whole yacht thing, but we'll just leave that up to the listener's imagination.
It's still there.
It's still there. I mean, yeah, it's fine. We've been putting, it's a nice tax write-off every year, no doubt.
Okay. So it can still. So you're still able to rent it. Are you still? Or
that's a negative. Nope. We went into it's a floating office right now.
Okay.
Okay. No, we've been restoring it the past 5 years, and pretty much now it's vintage. It's about 2 months away from the yacht festival type level.
Yeah, see it.
Okay.
So
Whitney, I'm going to ask you: Have you seen the boat? Have you seen the yacht?
Not yet.
Okay.
Yeah,
guys. Why hasn't Whitney seen the yacht?
It's a year 2 thing. She's trending.
She's trending.
I haven't reached that phase yet in my my jet experience career.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But it's coming.
We're ready. Right. We're ready for the first video. We got to get Zay up there too. Bring him.
Yeah.
So
shout out Zay.
Aaron, you said something, and I was going to bring it up later, but I'll bring it up now. Cornell University, and it's not Washington State, but it's Ivy League. It's Ivy League, and you're sitting there in a hoodie. Jesse, you've got a knit cap on. And I thought all Ivy guys would be wearing, blazers and suits and ties, or, I'm kidding, but what was college like in an Ivy League school?
Well, to your point, there were a lot of squares. I'll tell you that. I didn't know anything different. I grew up on the east side of Portland, Gresham.
Okay.
And, had some success in football. So they recruited me out there, and I said, well, I guess cut your teeth. Don't, I'm not going to go to OU or OSU. Like, let's spread the wings a little bit, and met Jesse on a recruiting visit. And same thing, it's kind of a cool, I'd say mine was a success story, but, Jesse came from nothing in Wisconsin, bounced around in Colorado. We connected on our our first recruiting visit, and we're looking around and we're like, who the hell are these people, man? Who are this? This is a different breed of folks. And then ended up going out there and roomed freshman year and started concocting all these grand plans of taking over the world, all the while like starting to realize that it's a brave new world out there, and there's a lot of old rich money, that kind of control things, and we wanted to be disruptors in that model. But yeah, I'm in a hoodie. I'm comfortable working from home, but yeah, buyer beware, because there's a lot of old money out there, and you got to shake the tree, and those guys are just looking to be led. From my experience.
All right, so Jesse's bio on the website indicates what position he played on the football team. Yours doesn't. So what position did you play?
Well, I was a defensive back in college.
Okay.
Running back in high school, and I'd like to say that I'm slicker than snot. Not anymore, but my kid probably will be. Like, Scott, if I was in front of you, you probably couldn't touch me. I'd be too quick.
Yes, that's true.
You wouldn't try to touch me. I understand.
No, I know, but also I couldn't anyway. All right, so you were a defensive back. You were a defensive back.
In my claim to fame, I had to hang it up early. I had a devastating finger injury, actually breaking up a pass. But Jesse was, all Ivy. He had all these accolades, but what he never could do was catch a pass against me.
Oh, thank you. See, I was going to ask you guys to talk crap about each other, so you did it for me. Awesome. So in practice, you guys were going up against each other, and you shut him down.
But I mean, that'd be to put it lightly. Yes,
that's a bit of a stretch. Yeah, I mean, I caught the ball over Aaron. I caught the ball over Aaron every time. He might have pushed me out of bounds. Anyway, I definitely dunked on him and went 4-0, out of a 7-game series. So that's
okay. All right. And so you said
clear the air there.
So you set single game records for 14 catches in a game.
Oh yeah. I had a gritty game up one time. I think it was at Columbia, but we had a fun offense, and back under the old Jim Knowles days, that's who recruited the guy that coaches at Ohio State now. So that was pretty cool. Knowles recruited us, and we went 20-20, I guess, over 4 years, about as good as any Cornell team did. And that was it. But yeah, we had a pretty gritty background, different than the typical Ivy Leaguer. And I think.
Yep.
Anyway,
we did.
That was beautiful.
Okay, so
that was a sign.
One last question about your college experience. So when I think of the Ivy League, I think of Harvard and Yale and Princeton and all that, and I think of Harvard and Yale having a football rivalry. Who's Cornell's rival?
Well, during those days, I guess traditionally it's Penn. That's who you play at the end of the year in the last game. But I would say we had quite a gritty rival with Brown. And we're just the blue collar Ivies, so we're just every game's a rivalry out there. That's part of the fun. But you're home by Thanksgiving to cheers cocktails with your buddies.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, the gentleman's league.
Oh, so you guys got you both graduated from Cornell, and you moved back to the western side of the states. Why didn't you stay out in the Northeast? What was it, just the draw to come home?
Well, no, I think you just get what you need to out of there. It's not a place you want to call home if you want to stretch your wings. So I always wanted to get west, and actually I ended up in Portland, where Aaron's from. So it kind of worked out, and he ended up in Colorado, where I was kind of from for a while. So that was kind of weird.
Okay. So Whitney, what was your Ivy League experience like?
Short-lived, because it didn't happen.
Okay. Neither did mine. It's all good.
No, I actually went to George Fox. So originally it's in Newburgh.
Is that British? Where?
Yeah,
Newburgh, Oregon. Yep.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, but that doesn't matter, Scott. She's better than any Ivy Leaguer I ever met in her line of work. Got to watch out for the ones like Whitney.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So how did
we're
you
just number one of her 32 clients.
Okay, so Aaron, you said you've known Whitney a long time. So when did you and Whitney grow up in the same area, or?
Yeah, man. Elementary, middle school. And we actually celebrated a big wedding here in the last year between her and my best friend growing up for many a moon. Me and Whitney's circles, like, we weren't quite the Venn diagram, but there was like some interlinking. And then, yeah, she married my best friend recently. So yeah, kind of crazy coming back together story, which was really exciting.
Okay. So how did the three of you, so Whitney, you're helping them you're the chief marketing officer. So how did this all come about? Because we found out about a bra on a yacht, and now we've got,
that is
other
not
things.
how it came about.
Okay. So how,
it was not her bra.
It was not her bra on the boat. Okay. All right. We've clarified that. So, so how did the three of you, how did you become in your role with Jet?
How did I get set to Jet? Okay. So, when I started dating my now husband, reconnecting with Aaron, I think was back on holiday on the West Coast. I had just relocated back from Los Angeles from work. We started talking about the project he was working on with Jesse. And it's just like, we always say like the Jet family, and it's really true. Like there's so many layers of like overlap where I used to know you when you were a kid, or all these sorts of things. So we started chatting about what I do with work and clients and what they were doing. And we thought there could be some really cool synergy, and started talking shop and struck up an arrangement to bring me on board. And I've been with them from big property Pacific Dunes 1 through, the branding, logo iteration, and digital footprint of each one up to where they're at today.
Very cool.
Yeah. So it just all goes back to family. You know what I mean?
That's awesome.
Family and ties and connections.
So since I'm all about Washington State, let's talk about your Washington State property.
I'll draw that back to the dunes because, after the dock burnt down and all that, Jesse was a commercial appraiser. He cut his teeth in Centos coming up. I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm shredding paper. I'm like, what the hell is that? But, he came up, and he had Sports Center top 10 once, which was cool. But his biggest claim to fame was the union busting in like Sacramento with Centos, and it was a big campaign. Him when he's like, bright-haired, bushy-tailed 23-year-old in Centos out there. And so then he moved back. He fell in love out there, met his wife, and they moved back to Seattle and started doing commercial appraisals, primarily hotels, all along Washington, Oregon coast. And he said, "Hey, I found this property. It's not easy on the eyes. It's junk right now, but we can turn it into something special." It was a motel bank, 5 motel, 20 RV, and 6 campsites. He said, "Watch me, man. We can put glamping on this. That tiny house that we've been renting, we could put that on the RV stall, and these bungalow, we call them bungalows now, but old crappy motel, we can make them nice." I said, all right, well, let's give it a shot, I guess. My background was third-party property management. This was like a side thing for me. But I said, I'll take a chance on you, man. You're a creative dude. And so we purchased this property, and it was over like a year period because he negotiated this option contract where we didn't have to outlay the cash right away that we didn't have. So he spread this out. And this was a true entrepreneurial story. And then, we like scrapped together our lunch money at the end to close this thing. And then we're like, all right, what do we do now? We closed it. And he's like, let me go to work. And so I met him like 3 months afterwards on the property. And he has this camo bucket hat on. And I'm like, it's like he had this whole new persona. I said, what in the hell are you wearing, man? What's going on? And he said, this is the innkeeper hat. I said, what's the innkeeper? He goes, the innkeeper is all encompassing of what happens here. He gave me this big old speech, and it was true, man. He did the construction. He did everything. He got this whole place dialed, and still on the day we opened, we were, snaking the sewer lines, and hot water wasn't working, all sorts of unique, interesting components of it. But that's where the innkeeper was born. Which is an all-encompassing person. And now you go out to the Pacific Dunes, and I guarantee, some people would like hearing those old stories about how it came from nothing. But, it's a beautiful property. Those bungalows are special. They all have a separate, like, kitchenette room to them. nice bathroom. The glamping tents, which are nice canvas wall, like 16 by 20, all with fireplaces in them. Nice side yards where you could pitch a tent. If you got a large family, or parents like myself say, hey kids, you pitch a tent outdoors. I'm sleeping with mama tonight, and you're not under the same roof.
Right.
That. Now we have a full tiny house village. We started with 1. Now there's 5, which was just an extension of the RV park. So you got the nice tiny houses. Then we can accommodate RVs, as well. So the coolest piece is, these places, like I said earlier, we wanted to touch on needs, of the modern day traveler, which you think of a family reunion. It's like grandpa may have an RV, young lovebirds, may want to be in a glamping, a family sets up best for a bungalow. Somebody wants to be in a tiny house. Like, it can cater to everybody, and it's right on the coast. We're still trying to build a bridge over this little river, but we own to the high tide line. But you just have to cross a little stream to get there. So that was the first one, and it's beautiful. Copalis Beach, it's basically, a lot of people on the podcast may know of Ocean Shores. That's our neighbor there. And what's the place, Jesse, that all the big money goes to there up north from us?
Oh, Seabrook. Everybody knows Seabrook. But the place everybody needs to know is the Green Lantern, 100 yards down, the tavern. So we're the closest resort to the tavern.
So you guys are close to the Green Lantern. Okay.
Yeah.
Beach. Have you been there, Scott?
I saw your ears perk up there, Scott.
Well, my quote unquote day job is I'm a real estate broker, and I just sold 5 acres in Ocean City.
Okay. Yeah, you're right there.
You're right there. You know the Lantern.
I know the Lantern. My wife owned property in Ocean Shores. I know the area, and okay. So
why didn't you hit us up, Scott? We would have put you up in whatever you wanted.
I don't want to talk about what I do for my day job, but let's say I've had that. It was a foreclosure, managed it for Fannie Mae. The last time my runner was always out there. It wasn't me, because I live in Wenatchee. I live in the middle of the state. I don't go to the west side.
Nice.
We love it over here. But here's my question about your Copalis Beach thing, and I'm reading it off of your website. It says deluxe glamping, bungalow suite, tiny home. Now here's the 2 things that I don't understand. FHU RV slip. What is FHU?
Full hookup.
Full hookup. Yeah, just one of those Gen Z things that we got to get cleaned up. Okay. And then flex camper. That makes me think of like those campers that I see the fishermen use that pops the top up. Is that what is a flex camper? Well, hey, a lot of the modern day travelers are just that, and some of these third-party sites, I mean, we have people showing up in their car, putting a tarp on the ground, popping a tent, versus an RV versus a van. And really it's alternative lodging, in a nutshell. There is no real definition of what flex is these days. Okay. So like, are people showing up like with their vanigans and popping the top and
camper vans, and it's crazy. Even Jesse's got the rig with the tent pop on top for road tripping and real long extended things when he's between our different properties. So it's kind of like the come as you are option, right?
Nice.
But that's good feedback, Scott, because the flex camper was intended to, like, you could pitch a tent. We have a nice little green strip of grass in the RV stall, so you could pitch a tent there if you so chose. Okay,
that's very cool. So I always ask this of business owners, and since Jesse's disconnected from us at the moment, he'll be back. But Aaron, I'll put you on the spot. Everything goes perfectly in business. There's never been any problems. Nothing's ever gone wrong. You said you were snaking the sewer lines on day of opening. You've never had to do anything since then. No, in all seriousness, what with this property, any big surprises that caught you guys unaware?
I mean, like you said, after we snanked that first sewer line, everything's been perfect. I've just been sitting back with my feet up in my hoodie. I'm like Fetterman, just hanging out. No, I mean, so our big thing is, we take existing infrastructure. So I'm not going through and permitting for another 20 RV stalls and cutting through red tape. It's like we operate immediately. But this old infrastructure has some problems. It's a well, so that the well has been a fun challenge. Through the RV stalls, the innkeepers that just left that were awesome, but they're wandering souls. You can't tie them down for too long, and a lot of people in this economy are. But his question when we're interviewing to these nice folks, but he kind of put them on the spot. He's like, "All right, so it's Memorial Day, and then all of a sudden the sewer line's backing up. What do you do?" And like put him on the spot. And I liked her answer. She was like, "Maybe I'll call the adjacent places to see if there's a dump and fill." He's like, "No, I traced down the sewer line break to one that was like a normal sewer line connection that was buried for probably 20 years under the salt water. Like, he dug that thing up and then reconnected it, fixed it, and solved the plumbing issue. But like we didn't even know those. I mean, we probably knew, but we're doing a million other things. We didn't know that sewer line connection was buried underneath 12 inches of sand to dig up to solve.
And see, these things never happen on a Tuesday when nobody's there.
I know.
They always happen on a 3-day weekend at night.
Exactly. And so, but he solved it, and that's you got to be resourceful and take matters into your own hands is the biggest thing that we've done. It's like, there's a problem. Could I go on the internet and search like, "Please, Scott Cowan, please help me. Can you come out now?" He's like, "Nah, I'm in Wenatchee." It's like, no, take matters into your own hands. Just
well, and
find a solution.
And since I know that area, and I know that there's not a lot of vendors that are available out there. You're not getting a septic company to come out on a Saturday morning because they're just not. So
no, you're pulling from the home of Kurt Cobain, which I assume you know that one, right?
Okay. So this was the first property in this new style, and then you guys have opened other ones, and they're outside of Washington. But we're gonna talk about this. So what was next?
Yeah, can you hear me all right now, Scott?
We can hear you now, Jesse. You're back.
Right,
You disappeared. You disappeared, but we're good.
Yeah. Well, what was next is after we knocked it out of the park with the dunes through 9 months of cleaning toilets and kissing babies, we had a little bit of a product. And we started looking for another property, and so we shot out to Idaho over the holidays and found a beautiful property, Teton Peaks, over there near Jackson Hole, in Teutonia, Idaho. So I don't know if you're familiar with Driggs, Teutonia, that area.
Not really. No.
Grand Targhee Resort, so big ski area on the other side of Jackson Hole, over on the other side of the Tetons. So we actually got in a group of investors and purchased that property and 4 more last year. It was a pretty incredible run. Yeah. So we went from 1 to 5 properties in the whole year. So Aaron came on board. That was probably the biggest thing is, getting Aaron to jump ship from his, he's pretty successful in his own right, coming out of college. He did 11 years with 4-star, but I needed someone to help me out with the operations, and if we build this thing out. And I would say we've become a pretty good team, with just focusing on the infrastructure and the real estate. And we're both raising capital. And then he brought on Whitney. And so this thing has really snowballed. And I would say that's a pretty good summary of the last 18 months for us, really.
So you guys brought on 4 properties in an 18-month period.
That was intense.
Yeah, huge growth and just rolling with the punches. And we spread from the Pacific Coast all the way to Fort Smith, Montana, where we have Cottonwood Camp, fly fishing mecca on the Bighorn. So if you want to hit I-90 for 14 hours, you can be there. Well, even closer for you. But we spread then we got the other property in Washington, which you know about now, Columbia Point, and that's a real gem. And that was our last close at the end of December last year. And so we now have 3 properties. I guess the one thing we did want to touch on was the opening. We just got our last one in September here outside of Kettle Falls. So 6th property and 3 in Washington State now. So we are trying to really grow our Explore Washington footprint.
So hang on a second. So you got three. You've lost me. So you got Pacific Dunes, Copalis Beach.
Yep.
You've got Columbia Point, which is in Kettle Falls.
That's right.
And what's the third one? Where am I missing?
Our newest acquisition is we call it an outpost, Lazy Lake Outpost, and that's 5 minutes outside of Kettle Falls. But right on the water, down there by the marina, the state park. And so it's really, it's an outpost of Columbia Point, and we hope to, have a kind of a funky little retro trailer park feel down there across from the water, and get some food trucks involved. And, Columbia Point, it's a whole different avenue. They've got, ag venture going on over there with chickens and rabbits running around and all these fresh eggs and pick your own vegetables. Right. So that's a whole different lifestyle compared to Pacific Dunes. But really a beautiful part of our company is that these properties all have their own little lifestyle going on.
Kind of character, their own vibe, if you will.
And they're all around national recreation or, elements like the Tetons or the ocean or the Columbia River. That's really important that, we're not just buying the rundown RV park in Yakima,
Well,
even though I might consider that. You should see Sacagawea Inn, our greatest success story, which was a little meth hotel that we've really cleaned up, and the community has really got our back over there in Salmon, Idaho. So we will bite on those flies too.
Wow. Okay. So so this is the question I was going to ask you was what sort of condition are these places when you buy them? But you've just described, a meth hotel.
Oh yeah.
You talked about a trailer park in Yakima.
They all have their own.
Yeah, in my space, I deal with foreclosures in 14 counties for Fannie Mae. And so, I see lots of meth properties. I see lots of really things that we don't want to talk about because no one wants to hear it. But are you guys really, you're willing to take on something like that? You're willing to take on a property that has been so abused that it's not even neglected, it's abused?
Yep. We pride ourselves on it, Scott, and that's our whole thing, man. We go in there from the beginning, and we're rehabbing these, we're rebranding these, and we're doing the work that none of these other hospitality companies will want to do because they're either too corporate or they don't have the layers. We find the deals, we finance the deals, we do the contracting, we do the operations, we manage them, long term. So that's really where Aaron's kind of finished off our product, I would say, and he can speak more to it because I was always involved in the real estate and the construction and the appraisal and stuff, but he's really evolved our operations, and we call it decentralized management. So, he can allude to that more.
Real quickly, I just wanted to say that's one of the other reasons that I really wanted to work with these guys is what they're doing is incredible. Like, not only are they taking these defunct properties that most people would just smash, right? They're reinvigorating them, rehabbing them, and then they're giving opportunities back to the small local communities where most of these are located as far as job opportunities and livelihoods, and places for community as well. I mean, they're hosting barbecues and give backs and putting up, local firemen for wildfire season. There's so many layers to what they're doing by reinvigorating versus, just bulldozing these things.
That's awesome,
and they're not all like that, but yeah, beautifully said.
No, but a lot of them are pretty bad.
Yeah.
So,
well, it's about the people there. They, that's what it is. They're good people, and we also really pride ourselves on our relationship building with anybody. From the guy sitting at the end of the bar, who I especially like to talk to the banker, to our buddies out on Wall Street. And I think that's where Aaron and I's blue collar background, but going out to Cornell has really kind of allowed us to differentiate ourselves because we're willing to talk to anybody, and we'll do the work, or we'll sit in a boardroom too. No big deal, So
how long? This is probably an impossible question to answer, but how long, in a rule of thumb, is it taking you from closing on a property that's neglected to being able to open it? How long is it taking you guys to rehab these things?
Well, I'll tell you this, and this is another special piece of the sauce. Like the first one, it was 6 months, that Jesse purchased on the coast, but we had never, done it before. And that place needed a lot of love. The second one, Teton Peaks, is probably the best condition overall. We closed on that in April of last year. We were renting rooms 2 weeks from then. While we had, the first day we had taken a sledgehammer and tore down a wall because we were going to build our beautiful, lobby area. So it's, and the type of hospitality that we give, I think a lot of people like seeing that progress. They like showing up and not just seeing some spit shine beautiful thing. They like seeing, Whitney when she's on site doing some content, swinging a hammer too. It's a beautiful thing. So at all of them, even the worst one in Salmon, we were still renting out rooms from the beginning a month later. And it's a different product than we're renting now. And we, people understand that different price point, but generating revenue out of the gates was always the model, as opposed to, your auto camp, your under canvas of the world, where they spend 12 months, 18 months just strategizing, acquiring the land. 2 more years, going through development. We say, look, come as you are. Here's what we are. Here's what we can give you. We will be better next time you visit, and then the time after that. And we've had a lot of people, particularly at Pacific Dunes, because it's been around the longest. But we have people that showed up for 3 different visits, and they love seeing the progress and the change. It's like we have our phase 1 rehab, then our phase 2, and then beyond. And so, the first one was 6 months, but all the other ones have been open up shop, rent what we got, take a quarter of the units offline, redo those, and just have a rolling renovation. And that's worked really well for us. But again, it's you better have the right mentality and the right pitch to people, because when they show up and it's, partly construction site, they're either going to love it and you're going to tell them why they love it, or they're going to say, why the hell did you rent this thing to me like this?
So we can put Whitney on the spot then, since you're creating content to put eyeballs on these properties. What are you doing to do your best to ensure that somebody's not showing up going, what the hell is happening around me? That you're getting those people that like this to see the progress. How are you marketing?
Right. From the initial point last year when they acquired so many of these and we were going through the heavy rehab process, we're just transparent with the images and what you were getting. And of course, the price point was reflective of that as well. And focusing on the aspect and the intention of our hospitality, right? And then, of course, as things have grown and improved, we've made upgrades and we've recorded that and reflected that on the sites and the platforms to see that this is what it is now. So.
Okay. I think I love what you guys are saying here. You're not taking it offline for 24 months to get it turnkey.
It doesn't make sense.
Well, it's iterative, it's one day at a time.
One thing I will say, Scott, though, this is the other part that's real important, is the innkeepers that are running these properties. They are out there explaining that, and they're living it around the campfire. And so it really is an experience, so yeah, they can appreciate a construction site when they're talking to the person who's doing the work while they're having a beer around the fire, and they go away understanding what we're trying to do. But I would say also we have a little bit of structure to it. I mean, we want to come in 6 months, we want to add the glamping, and then we want to layer in the tiny homes. And so we have some structure to our business model too. It's not just all trial by fire, but certainly growing as fast as we did, all of them are in phase 2, and now Lazy Lake's going to be in phase 1, and so we'll open up, I think, glamping at our 4th and 5th property next year. Right now, 3 of them have it, and tiny homes at 2, but soon to be 3 next year. And I'll say that's a big differentiator too. Like Aaron's point about some of our competitors, we're bringing all facets of alternative lodging to the masses. We want them to have 4 or 5 choices at our property, so they come back 3 or 4 times, and we've been pretty successful in that lane. So you can just basically start out on the coast, end up in Montana, and you'll have tried them all at each of the properties, 5 for 5. So,
all right. So this is going to put you on both of you, all three of you on the spot. 2 years from now, what's it going to look like? What's the horizon? A couple years from now.
It's a growing behemoth. Well, one thing I'll say is that model I just told you is called Alt Trip, and we'd like to incorporate our properties to create a platform that people are actually traveling within our network. And Eric can speak a little bit more about our vision there, but we want to grow and stabilize and keep, duplicating this real estate model. So I don't know, Aaron, what do you think?
I've always, people probably tired of me saying it, but I say we're trying to establish long-term, mutually beneficial relationships. This isn't transactional where I got your $100 for the night, Scott, and I don't really care how your experience went.
Right.
And to your point earlier, before I get into Alt Trip, of like, how does that work when you're under construction and like how things are going? It's like, if you were to book the Sacagawea Inn early on and be like, hey, I'm so excited for my family, my young family, to come out and visit. We're going rafting on the Salmon River. Like we generally, at that early stage, it's a little hard now, but we'd pick up the phone and call you and say, hey, just wanted to make sure everything's good. And by the way, I don't know if we're right for you at this moment. Like, I don't,
okay.
This sounds like an exciting visit. Like, do I want your $100? Yes. But more importantly, I don't want to compromise your experience, because we don't spend a bunch of money on Google, and all of these other, just pie in the sky advertisements. Like we're grassroots. Like we bank on you showing up, having a good experience, and then you going back to your circles and talking about, the personal connection you made around the campfire. It extends beyond the roof over your head, which is the traditional hospitality world. It's like you get a roof over your head in a lukewarm, very substandard breakfast, with your continental breakfast. That's what you get. Like here, you have a chance of making a friend and making a memory. And that's the ultimate vision of continuing to expand, picking up more properties that fit the mold that we're looking for. But to this Alt Trip, which is like a better version of, Airbnb paved the playing field for it. But all they're doing is connecting you with the property. We want to, like, what are you doing when you leave Wenatchee to travel to the coast? You could be a historian buff, and I don't know anywhere out there where you can hit all the historical mile markers. Like, it's like you're hook sliding in. You're like, oh crap, I want to read that historical mile marker, and you're doing, like, how great would it be if you could have that mapped out? And then you're a brewery guy, and so all the breweries along the way, or a winery person, or whatever it is, or you love cheeseburgers or bacon, or en route to Pacific Dunes, there's an amazing place, Lidl's, where they have their fresh oysters, and you can go shoot oysters there, and they got awesome T-shirts. It's like, it's so hard to see on the highway. Like, you're going 75, and you got to do an aggressive, move to hook it. But if it were mapped out, you with your family, or you with your girl, and you're trying to surprise her, it's like you already had your trip planned out. And then, of course, you got the comfortable place over your head. That's the big component. It's like a trip planning aspect. You got the great place, but then you also, how nice is it when you show up to Lidl's and they're like, oh, you're staying at Pacific Dunes? Well, of course you get 10% off. And by the way, here's a free oyster, just for showing up type deal. So that's the connectivity of people.
I love that, you guys. I think that's just awesome. My last hotel experience, which I will just say was beyond substandard, from a place that I would have expected much better. Cold showers in the morning is not something I expect in a hotel. Well, and when I was told, oh yeah, we know, and then they went back to the phone.
Well, that's the other thing, Scott, that, like, you may show up at Pacific Dunes when we host you when you're visiting your property out there in Ocean City, and you may have a cold shower. But guess what's not going to happen? You're not going to be calling us complaining of a cold shower. We're going to be on your doorstep saying, we're so sorry, this hot water heater failed. How can we make the situation right?
Right.
By the way, a cold shower can shock your immune system. It'll be good for you, Scott. So do you need anything from me? Just being open and transparent, not you got to be proactive on this stuff. If you drop the ball, that's okay. We're human. We all drop the ball.
We all drop the ball. Every place drops the ball. If Jesse's the original housekeeper and he hasn't cleaned my cabin yet and he's working on it, we can wait. It's all good.
And you know what? If I show up with the Bud Light in hand, it softens my image too. And I give you one and say, come back in 30 minutes, I'll have your room ready. And that's been done before. That's how we did it at the beginning.
And that's how, but see, I think people respect that. I think.
Absolutely.
But and people just want to feel like they're appreciated and valued. And so, to your credit, when you were saying, when you first started out and you're calling the family and saying, well, we're not sure that this is maybe we're not the right place this time, is being respectful to them. You could have taken their quote unquote $100 and provided them a roof over their head for the night and moved on. But you at least gave them a little bit of, backstory and said, okay, this is where we're at. Are you okay? If they say yes, great. If they say no, you've done a good service to them and helped them go stay somewhere else.
You hit the nail on the head, and Aaron kind of alluded to it before. Like when we first started, we want to get rid of the auto dial, auto answering system, get rid of the technology, shake hands. We were started in COVID, but we were one of the only properties open and successful that summer. So I guess now we call it hospitality from the heart, but really, but really, it's just about kind of, bringing back the human element. And we do like to, if you're running a 25-person stall RV park, it's pretty easy to make good relations. You just go around to all 25 stalls and you can our innkeepers might have a cocktail in their hand. And that's okay too, because it's part of their lifestyle, because they're actually living on the property.
I was going to say they're on site.
Yeah, they're giving a complete human, organic experience, and that's what I don't think many people are doing besides Jet. So that's where we're at now, 5 years in.
That's very cool.
Yeah, so people are too stuffy. People are like the Ivy Leaguers out there, just in their crappy, blazer, looking like The Office. It's like they don't want that. They want to know who you are and what do you have to offer. That's important.
How do people find out? So, if I wanted to stay at Capelas Beach, where am I going? Walk me through a reservation process.
So there's a variety of different ways to find out lodgings and accommodations. Something with this large acquisition of properties now we're focusing on the next year is our digital footprint. Social media, like I said, we're not doing a lot of paid marketing. We're hugely word of mouth and reviews, Google reviews, and from our website. So one of the cool things about all of the Jet properties is that you can direct book, which saves you on the myriad of fees you get from other platforms. So you can book through our Jet site that'll take you there, or each property has its own site as well.
So I'm on jethospitality.com.
Yeah.
Check out that location bar, Scott. That's where you want to go. But first, check out Whitney's awesome video work, because she's got some serious footage on there that should be uploading about now.
I'm looking at, there's some, it's very cool. So let's go explore. I like that we're not stuffy. You're right. You claim that right away. I love that. So I'm going to go Pacific. Go ahead, Aaron.
Keep looking that up. But this is just a general tip to all your listeners out there. We're max footprint. So, we have our website and we do a good job of generating traffic to our website. But, through our reservation software, we're on Airbnb, we're on Expedia, we're on Booking.com. It syndicates to every single one out there. Those guys charge you an arm and a leg. It's like 20 to 25%. It's highway robbery, which was one reason why we wanted to start Alltrip, because we thought it was greedy. Like the guests, those guys are like, they shouldn't be paying the fee. The hotel should be paying the fee. And so anyways, we charge extra on those sites. At easy glance on Airbnb, you can see that it's Pacific Dunes Resort. Like they should Google Pacific Dunes Resort and book on us direct.
Well, I'm looking here and
they save 30%.
Yeah, I just punched in 4 dates here in November, and really affordable.
Yeah, you'll see that it's updated in real time too, Scott. We're 100 to 300 on a max weekend, and you know what our competitors are charging for glamping? $450 a night, or $350 a night, and I would say that our locations are for everybody. It's not for. Yeah. It's really cool, but
no, this is very cool, you guys. Let me. And I think I warned Whitney more than I warned you guys. I tend to bounce around a lot, so I apologize. But the tiny homes, is there from a permitting and approval process, what's that like?
Yeah. Oh, you just hit the sweet spot for Jesse. He's an expert.
Huh. Well, I don't claim to be an expert, but I started a company, and the approval process is through L&I, and that's how that was back in the day. But it's actually pretty interesting. Once you get one design approved, you can build as many as you want. There's no inspection. There's no real, it's not like a building. But as far as us, we wanted to find an RV park where we could park them. And that's why we bought the dunes, because, they're treated just like a vehicle. And so they're mobile. And, I guess if you look at what you can rent a tiny home for versus an RV stall, and you call that the cost of the hotel, it's pretty cheap when you're adding those at, $70K a pop, and the hotel room's $200 a pop. There's a lot of value created. So there's not really any process. It's a free for all. That's why we got in it.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, and it still is too. But, I would say that the value is in the real estate, because there are very little RV parks being made. So everything's grandfathered in. We have 9 septics at the dunes, and the capacity of those 30 RV stalls would be cut in half, probably at 15 if we were to build it today. And it's different standards. It's great. So buy the infrastructure, and then we're not breaking any laws. We're not crossing anything with the city because it's already there. So
okay, yeah, I could imagine setting one up. It'd be septic.
Oh, it's impossible. It's impossible, even with the environmental. But
all right,
they said jet
so this is the part of the show where I always ask my guests certain questions. Now, you guys are spread out, so I'm gonna reframe my I don't know who's in the background. Is that Aaron?
Maybe my beautiful wife that just showed up from teaching the youth of America.
Okay, well, condolences to her.
Yeah, it's not easy.
No, it's not. Okay, so I am a huge fan of coffee. I ask all my guests where to get good coffee around them, but you guys are not necessarily in Washington, so I don't want to really know about Portland coffee. So I'm going to put you on the spot. Do you guys drink coffee?
Yes.
Yes.
Jesse?
Yeah,
yes?
I'm a coffee drinker.
Are you a coffee drinker?
Yep. I don't like cream or sugar.
Okay, so what's your go-to coffee drink, Aaron? What do you drink?
I just drink black coffee, and whoever's got a cup for me, I shall drink it.
Whitney?
Yeah.
What do you drink? What's your go-to coffee drink?
I make my French press in the morning.
Okay. Jesse?
I'm quad shot Americano iced guy, and they ask me why I get the quad shot, and then they don't ask later. You got to get a little.
I'm gonna bite. Why do you get the quad shot?
Well, I like to get it going in the morning, 8 to 10, and like to get that heartburn going to remember what I'm working for there, Scott.
All right. So you guys all drink black coffee, Americanos, French press.
Back in my Cintas days, those guys would fill up the whole thing with Folgers to the top. And, what came out was like, black gravy. We'd drink that. And, so the stuff the kids are drinking these days, it's nothing.
No, but see, to you guys' credit, nobody said oat milk.
No.
Nobody said, nobody said.
I like oat milk. I do like that. I'm not going to say it. It's not my go.
No, when I look at Jesse, he screams oat milk. I understand what you're saying, Scott. But it was a big debate even about having cream or sugar. We did a deal with Nespresso that's a good cup of Joe, easy, clean. But they're like, well, what about cream and sugar? I was like, they don't get that. And they're like, no, you need to be able to have cream and sugar. And I finally bent the knee to cream and sugar, but they're like, what about a decaf option? I'm like, if they want to drink decaf, then they could just go drink tap water. Like we're not supplying a decaf option. And people may say, oh, Aaron, you should be more flexible, but no, there's no decaf option when you show up to our properties. We just want to be transparent to the
I
listeners.
love that your company has principles.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. We're grounded in some very firm decisions and morals.
No decaf at any of the
decaf for you.
facilities. I love
and
that.
barely cream and sugar, but it'll be
barely.
Only if you're lucky.
That's an upcharge. Okay. That should be an add-on line to your. Okay.
Should I put a box? Right. Should I put a box when you check out? Do you want cream and sugar?
And then like double their rate just to see, if they'll pay for it.
Yeah, there's the case study for you.
Okay.
Oh man.
All right. So I'm going to ask this question, and I've never tried to do this with three guests. So I'm going to ask you to play along and not really listen to anybody else's answer. I want you to answer it truthfully for yourselves. Okay.
Okay.
Cake or pie, and why?
Pie.
Why?
Because, man, you've got the delicious filling and the super flaky, delicious crust, and it's just magical.
Okay. There's no wrong answer, by the way. And so what type of pie?
Yes.
No. What? Oh, yes.
Yes.
Okay.
The answer is yes.
Aaron, cake or pie, and why?
No, I'm going to go with strawberry rhubarb pie. I'll produce the rhubarb from my own garden. And there's a reason out there you don't want to be called a cake eater. That's a negative connotation. Pie is wholesome. It's from the heart. You got to put a little more effort into it. And hopefully the filling you grew in your own garden. You're not milling your own wheat or flour to make the cake. And, I think cake is soft. I think pie is for the people, and I'm for the people.
Okay, Jesse.
Yeah, I don't know how I follow that up. Let me have a drink.
I don't know, man.
And Aaron's ready to run for office.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, I'm a cake eater. And my wife is baking up cakes all day long. Hey, Danny Bakes. She's got her own little cooking blog thing she's been blowing up for years. So I eat cakes all year long. But I will, I'm not going to say I don't like key lime. I'll do pumpkin. I'll do apple. But I think cakes, it holds up better. So
he's a dabbler, but he's not a purist with the pie.
Yeah, I'm not a pie purist. My grandma used to make pie crust though. That's what I'll go to with the cinnamon and sugar. That's a poor man's dessert. I respect it though. It's the best.
Okay.
So Scott, you have to answer your own
Scott, what about you?
It's my show. I don't have to answer.
Oh,
I probably a pie.
Yeah.
Three
pies.
Well, look at me for God's sakes. Come on. I would say pie. Yeah. And probably Aaron, I would go along with strawberry rhubarb.
Good.
Delicious.
What about you?
I'm not trying to
What's
curry
your
favor.
Okay.
She said yes.
I just
yes.
love pie in general, but I absolutely love strawberry rhubarb. That's one of my favorites.
Oh man.
Okay.
I know. I sound cliche.
Oh, you guys, broken record over there.
All right.
Yeah, I know.
So here's my last question. Once again, it goes out to all three of you. What didn't we talk about that we should have?
I'd say for your travelers, oftentimes people, particularly with the type of properties we have, it's like, oh, I got to get out to the coast, but they forget about why they're even going to the coast. Like, I think when people are planning their trips, they want to think about what are the boxes they want to check. What are the things that they want to do? Because those activities should dictate where you're going to rest your head at the end of the day from a convenience, standpoint, and just an overall trip planning, which ties back to that all trip that we're trying to create those little, spider web efficiency. It's not where am I going to rest my head? It's what am I going to do? And then you hope that the place that you're resting your head is there. So, just all the different activities around these properties. That's the biggest thing that I would say.
Real quick, I was going to say too, for Washington listeners, Columbia Point, I think, is kind of the unsung hero. It's close up to the Canadian border. It's not that far from Spokane. It's a different part of Washington that people don't think about as much. It's right by Lake Roosevelt, and there's so much going on up there that's really cool to check out. So for travelers in the area, that might not be something you gravitate towards, but you should try it. It's cool.
Okay. Jesse.
Yeah, well, we kind of touched on it a little bit, but I'll just state it again. And really, it's just a lifestyle here with Jet Hospitality, and especially in Washington State. Yeah, we do have 3 locations now, but we're really trying to just provide that Rocky Mountain Northwest culture, campsite vibe, construction site, just organic experience. And I think that we also have a lot of good people in our lives we should be thankful for. And it's been a really fun ride here working with these two the last couple of years. But after 2023, I think you might be hearing Jet Hospitality go a little more mainstream. So should be interesting.
All right.
Well, we're working on it.
I look forward to watching the business arc, if you will, and seeing how things go.
Yeah.
I really like what you guys are saying. I really like the idea that you're taking neglected properties and not just knocking them down and building something new, but kind of giving them a second life, dusting them up, propping them up. And the idea of glamping and RV and the tiny homes.
It's special.
Might work.
We appreciate your time, Scott.
Yeah.
Jesse said it the best, though, is that, the room wasn't going to be ready. So he handed me a Bud Light and asked me to come back in 30 minutes. I mean, that's kind of,
that's hospitality
awesome.
With a heart.
Yeah. And that's, it's problem solving, but it's human, man. What would you do if if someone came over to your house, if the house wasn't cleaned yet, just, give them a beer and have them wait outside. And that's what we do. So, no, it's really something, but thank you for having us, Scott. This has been really good being a part of this Explore Washington State and podcast. And
what a great state.
Yeah.
Really. Thanks so much, Scott.
Thank you all.
Join us next time for another episode of the Exploring Washington State podcast.